If you have been repeating these same painful patterns, dead-end jobs, heartbreaks, identity crises, there is a deeper reason here. It's not just bad luck, it's not just life running its course, it's actually because of your Saturn placement. And not just your Saturn placement, but also your North Node. Together, these two placements show the hardest lessons you came here to master and the life you came here to grow into. So if you've ever asked yourself, why is this happening to me? What am I even here for? When will life stop feeling so heavy? This video is not just for your mind, it is for your soul. We are diving into one of the deepest layers of astrology, where your karmic patterns fuel your life purpose, aka where your Saturn meets your North Node. The reason that I am making this video for you guys is because we are in a collective moment of a lot of pressure, a lot of reckoning of enough is enough, getting to the point where we're done with the past. And let me know if you guys are in your Saturn return right now. That would be around age 28 to 30 or 58 to 60. A Saturn return is when these intense initiations often occur. Maybe you're feeling the echoes of your North Node calling, pushing you to do something bigger, braver, more aligned with your passion. Or maybe right now life just feels hard. Like you're walking uphill with weights on your back and no one told you why. This is where your astrology becomes a tool for liberation. Because Saturn isn't just showing you where you struggle, it's showing you what you're building. And the North Node doesn't just show you what's scary, it shows you the path that will fulfill you most. If you guys continue to go on and ignore these placements, your life will feel like a loop. Same lessons, different faces, missed opportunities, burnout, and relationships that continue to drain you instead of nourish you. There is going to be this persistent feeling that your path is off, even though it looks correct from an aesthetic standpoint, even when everything looks fine from the outside. But guys, when you work with these energies, everything will shift. You stop running from the hard stuff and you start enjoying it, seeing it as sacred. You stop trying to run through life, skipping to Friday or the good part of your month, and you start building a life that has meaning every single day. You realize that you're not behind, you're actually right on time, and you stop comparing yourself to other people. So this is what is at stake right now. Are you going to continue living by default, or are you going to start living through your purpose? Over the next about 60 minutes, we are going to go deep. And I'm not saying that lightly. You are going to learn what Saturn really is. It's not just the planet of karma, but the blueprint for your spiritual maturity. Number 2, you're going to learn what your North Node reveals about your soul's direction and how it contrasts with the comfort zone of your South Node. Number 3, you're going to learn about how to interpret your Saturn based off the house and the sign, how to decode the karmic story of your North Node axis, what happens during your Saturn return, and other 7-year milestones and how you can navigate them, why toughening up is not the point, and how you can soften while still getting through all of this. You will get practical tools, rituals, and prompts to start integrating these today. And lastly, I'm going to give 3 celebrity case studies to help you understand how this can show up for other people as well. The video chapters will be linked in the description. This is a video where I recommend getting your notepad or opening up a Google Doc and taking some notes on the video. And also, I know this sounds overwhelming, but you really don't be an expert to learn all of this stuff. All you need is your birth chart for this. I'm going to break it down in a way where every single person can understand, no matter if you're advanced or you are a beginner with astrology. Just make sure you go ahead and grab your birth chart. If you don't already have it, you can just go to astrocharts.com and put in your birth data, have the exact birth time where things can be really off. And then you just want to check where your North Node is, your Saturn sign, the house Saturn is in, and maybe the house that your North Node is in as well. So overall, if your life feels stuck right now, it does not mean you're failing. You might just be going through a big Saturn moment. And think of it like the winter season. The trees don't look like they're growing, but underneath the ground, beneath the soil, the roots are anchoring into the earth deeper than ever. And this is what Saturn does. It strips away the surface level so it can get to the root of things, the core of who you truly are, and help you align your life with the person you are becoming. Without that lens, you can really think that something is going wrong with you. You'll try and bloom and push and grow when you're actually meant to be in a phase of rest and reflection. So this video is honestly a permission slip for you to honor the timing of your life, to see the season you're in not as a punishment but as preparation for the next. This is a study session, it's not a passive watch, so please take your time, reflect, sit down, pause the video, journal. Each section is really meant to land not just in your mind but in your body, in your choices. Some of you may even get chills. I know I do when I watch really intense astrology videos. Let this be a conversation between your chart and your soul. The truth is, you probably already know the lessons you're meant to learn, but this is the reminder you didn't know you needed. There is no such thing as a perfect life. There is only a real, authentic life. And Saturn is here to help you build it. The North Node is here to help you grow into it. So take a breath, grab a notebook, and let's begin by talking about what Saturn represents in astrology. Saturn gets a bad reputation in pop culture astrology. It's often reduced to the taskmaker or the planet of karma, the one that ruins the party. But the truth is, Saturn is not here to punish you. Saturn is here to make you real. In traditional astrology, Saturn rules time, boundaries, structure, maturity, responsibility, authority, and limitation. It's basically the planet that governs the law of cause and effect. It's the saying of you reap what you sow. What you avoid, you probably will face later, and it's going to become bigger and louder. Saturn is the exact opposite of instant gratification. It's a slow build over time. Saturn is building your legacy over time. I want you to think about your hardest life lesson. What was the one thing that forced you to grow up? The one you didn't choose, but you had to endure and get to the other side. That was Saturn at play, because Saturn is the part of your chart that tests your ego so your soul can emerge. The part that strips away all the illusions so you can finally build something real. He's the mentor that challenges you to do the thing you're most afraid of, so you can remember your strength after you get through it. When it comes to the mythology, Saturn is also known as the god Kronos, the god of time and agriculture. In the myth, he devours his children not because he's evil, but because he has this fear of losing control. This is the perfect metaphor for the shadow of Saturn: control, fear, scarcity, but also the lighter side of it, which is cultivation, stewardship, maturity, and legacy. Saturn basically teaches you to face the construct of time instead of fighting against it, to stop chasing the glamorized idea of youth and start building wisdom and finding value in that. Saturn as a planet rules Capricorn and Aquarius. And that gives us a lot of cues, because Capricorn is the sign of perseverance, ambition, status, integrity. It is the mountain goat. It slowly, steadily climbs the mountain over time. Capricorn energy is in it for the long game. It's okay with being behind the scenes. Aquarius, on the other hand, is the innovator. It's all about systems, revolution, and the collective vision. It's the architect of the future. So Saturn isn't just about personal effort and how much you can endure. It is also about your place in the collective structure. What are you contributing? What are you accountable for? Wherever Saturn is in your chart, there is also a wound. A place where you don't feel good enough, a place where you have fear of rejection, of failure, basically a block that makes you second guess yourself. But it's also the place where your greatest wisdom can emerge once mastered. For example, if you have Saturn in the 3rd house, you may struggle to speak and to learn, but one day you can become an amazing teacher. If you have Saturn in the 6th house, you may burn out time and time again by trying to prove yourself or follow all these wellness diets, but one day you become a model for healthy service to other people. If you have Saturn in the 10th house, at first you may feel invisible professionally, like you never get the job that you go out for, but one day you start leading from deep authenticity and you are a respected leader who has probably built a whole legacy for themselves. Saturn doesn't reward people quickly, but when he finally does, it lasts a lifetime. So Saturn rules time, right? But more importantly, Saturn rules timing. There are seasons for everything, and Saturn really helps us see that more clearly. So that pressure you feel to get things done is not random. It's divine timing asking you to speed up or slow down. Astrology without Saturn is like the music without the rhythm. You need structure to have flow. You need resistance to build strength. You have to have endings to create space for beginnings. And the beauty of Saturn is the older you get, the better it gets. It's like aging in reverse. In your 20s, you grow into Saturn and it's probably your biggest critic. In your 30s, Saturn is helping you build. And then in your 40s, it's the mentor archetype. And in your 50s, it becomes like the wise sage. Which means if you feel like you're struggling with Saturn, that is good because you're paying attention to it and you're putting in the work. There's two sides of Saturn. Think of it as the gatekeeper. When you resist the lesson, he becomes the punisher. But when you engage with the lesson, he becomes your protector. Let me break it down. If you avoid Saturn, you're going to feel stuck in life. If you resent Saturn, you will feel bitter. If you work with Saturn, you are going to feel very grounded and focused, and ironically free. Ultimately, Saturn wants to give you authority, not over others, but authority over your own life. The keywords that I associate with it are maturity, responsibility, structure, boundaries, mastery, time, karma, endurance, wisdom, integrity, and delay. Saturn isn't really sexy in a world obsessed with quick fixes and instant gratification, because Saturn is teaching us long-term transformation. It's the relationship you work on instead of quitting. It's the gym membership that you actually use. The business you build step by step instead of chasing the six-figure hack videos on YouTube. Saturn is what makes growth sustainable. And in a spiritual sense, it's the part of you that is willing to be humbled, to be shaped, to become something or some part of yourself that you respect. For me, Saturn is in my 5th house. With this placement, it definitely creates a discipline and a restriction around fun and creativity, and also a fear of creating art, a fear that my creativity, the things I post, might not be seen, might not be appreciated. I had to grow it faster than other people, and I kind of had more of like a stern, disciplined idea. I wouldn't allow myself to let loose as much as others. I've been making content for a long time, and I felt like so many people around me would just get it instantly. The first video they posted was so good. For me, it's taken thousands, hundreds of thousands of videos of trials and error in order to understand my rhythm, and I'm still learning. So for me, it's about mastering creativity, allowing romance. And once I finally did that, it has rewarded me. And I've started to learn patience around that, understanding that my climb to success, my relationship with creativity is going to be different than other people's, and it takes more mastery. Now I work with clients one-on-one, helping them understand their Saturn wounds and how to turn that into wisdom. And that's also possible for you. One of the simplest ways to figure out the lesson of your Saturn without looking at your birth chart is asking, what am I most afraid to fail at? What part of me feels like I need to earn love? Saturn will show you where you unconsciously believe, if I get this wrong, I will be unworthy. That is where the work is, but it's also where the magic is. Because Saturn doesn't just point to fear, it gives you the tools to move through it. Slowly, gently, and steadily, because once you do, that fear loses its grip, loses its control over you. And Saturn lessons are not linear, they are cyclical. You will revisit the same theme over and over again, but each time with more depth, insight, and power. You're not going to master Saturn once and be done with it. You're going to meet it at every level of growth you get to. That's why you might feel like you're learning the same lesson over and over again. That doesn't mean you're failing. And some astrologers believe that Saturn governs our soul contracts, aka the karmic agreements we made before incarnating on this earth. So what this means is the person who broke your heart, the job you couldn't keep, the health crisis that made you lose everything, Saturn may have signed off on that for you. Saturn may have told you, you need to go through this. Not to punish you, but to position you so you can be aligned with what you came here to become. You know, that doesn't mean that everything is predestined. I think there's a misconception. You do have free will. But Saturn reveals the curriculum, like the syllabus of your soul school here on Earth. How you walk through it is completely up to you. Before we dive deeper into what the Saturn and North Node placement means specifically for you, let me talk about how to actually work with Saturn. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to heal everything by the end of this year. You just need to start. You can either pause this video and do these journal prompts now, or you can save it for tonight. Here are 3 journal prompts to help you get in touch with the energy. Number 1, where in my life do I feel like I'm being tested right now? Number 2, what would it look like to approach it with curiosity instead of shame? Number 3, what tiny commitment could I make this week that aligns with my long-term vision? Now let's explore the Saturn sign by every single house and every single sign so you can decode your exact karmic blueprint and start implementing it today. After that, we'll talk about the North Node and how to work with that, and then I'll give you some celebrity case studies in order to understand how this energy might evolve for you. Please comment below if you want me to do a video going into depth for every single Saturn sign and house. Now that you understand what Saturn represents, let's bring it down to earth and understand it in your chart. Where Saturn shows up in your chart is where you're being called to mature, take responsibility, and grow. It is the area of life where you will face the greatest tests and also gain the deepest wisdom. And what you need to know is the 12 houses in astrology each represent a different domain of life. If you don't know already, check what house your Saturn sign is in and listen to it as we go through the list. If you have Saturn in the 1st house, this is the lesson of identity. You may feel like you grew up way too fast. There is like a pressure to have it all together at a very early age. The fear of being seen can mask this deep desire within you to lead the entire group. Your greatest gift, however, and something you're probably going to grow and master over time, is this grounded confidence with an authentic presence. Over time, you're going to embody someone who naturally people want to trust. Saturn in the second house, this is the lesson of worth. This placement often faces early scarcity in their life. It can be financial or emotional. Money was most likely a stressor and there was some threat to their finances. They never felt like they truly had enough. With time, you guys learn how to build true security. From the inside out, you actually learn what is valuable to you other than just money. And you begin to unwind and understand what parts of yourself you truly value, because the more your self-worth increases, the more money you start to attract in. Saturn in the third house is the lesson of voice. Struggles with communication are very common if you have this placement. You might have even had struggles with learning disabilities, speech impediments, dyslexia, or maybe your ideas were dismissed and speaking up felt dangerous. Over time, you guys begin to master clear, wise, impactful communication styles. Many people with this placement become powerful teachers, speakers, writers, somehow delivering information in a public way. If you have Saturn in the fourth house, this is the lesson of emotional safety. Early life may have lacked that warmth and stability you were craving. You didn't feel like you were rooted and safe. Or you could have even felt burdened by the expectations of your family or the trauma that you went through. Eventually, you guys learn to grow and become your own safe place. You build and grow these emotional roots that can't be shaken, and you can even become a great nurturer and steady rock for other people as well. Saturn in the fifth house is the lesson of expression. Creativity could have felt blocked, judged, or trivialized in some way. Or joy felt conditional for you, like you had to meet XYZ expectations in order to have fun. Over time, you guys learn that your expression really does matter. And fun isn't frivolous, it's actually very healing. You begin to create beauty, whether that's in your videos, your singing, your art, your sculptures, that also has meaning to it. If you have Saturn in the sixth house, this is the lesson of devotion. There can be health challenges with this placement or often intense work pressure, intense work environments. You could even over-identify with being productive and earn your worth from that. Over time, you learn the power of sacred service. Being disciplined becomes being devoted, and you start to create these systems that support your life instead of stealing from it. If you have Saturn in the seventh house, this is the lesson of relationships. Relationships in your life can feel heavy, karmic, delayed, or on one side you could fear commitment, or on the other side you could cling so tight and even develop codependency with your partner. The sole lesson here is beginning to develop conscious partnership. You guys are here to build something real with someone, something with intention, truth, and boundaries that support your energy. Saturn in the eighth house is the lesson of power and surrender. Themes of control, intimacy, betrayal, all of these show up here. For example, you could fear losing yourself in intimacy, or you could want to have control or power over your partner. Your gift here is this transformational power. You can become a guide through the harsher parts of life, the undercurrents, the things that people don't want to talk about. And you can be someone who has the medicine after they go through these things to heal other people. Saturn in the ninth house is the lesson of truth. You could struggle with rigid belief systems, imposter syndrome, or that was forced upon you at a young age, or even a fear of exploring beyond your comfort zone, like maybe a fear of travel. But overall, your destiny is to walk your own truth, to develop a belief system that supports you and aligns with you, to have so much lived experience that you can teach from it, and to take all of that wisdom you've gained and translate it into words for others, or even translate it into something tangible. Saturn in the 10th house is the lesson of legacy. This is the home turf of Saturn because traditionally Saturn rules Capricorn. So you guys could have felt this really early desire and need to succeed. Or you wanted fast success. You wanted to get the money, get to the top of the social ladder as quickly as possible. But your highest path is actually leadership rooted in integrity. Once you go through your life in the professional world, it begins to be an example not of perfection, but of someone truly following their purpose. Saturn in the 11th house is the lesson of belonging. Friendships and community can kind of feel difficult, hard to grasp, or almost distant. And there could be a challenge with trusting other people, wanting to stay a little bit detached and possibly aloof. But your purpose here is to build community, building authentic communities that support you because you are a visionary with real world skills. And when you have a clear mission, a clear thing you're going after and trying to master, that soul tribe, the people you're meant to be around, will gravitate towards you. Saturn in the 12th house is the lesson of surrender. This is one of Saturn's most spiritual placements in the chart. It can bring loneliness, anxiety, and hidden fears because it's lurking in the subconscious. But the thing about it is your soul is here to do profound inner work that most people will never touch in this lifetime. You become the mystic in motion, learning to trust in the unseen, surrendering to the higher power, and moving through life with intuition and trust. Now let's layer in the sign your Saturn is in, because the sign shows you how you actually move through the lesson you're being taught. It flavors the experience, the shadow, the mastery. Saturn in Aries, this is all about courage and self-trust. You are learning to act without needing approval, to lead from an inner knowing and not hesitating on your boldness. Saturn in Taurus, this is all about inner worth and grounded growth. Security may be hard won, or it may feel that way, but once you get it, it is unshakable. You guys are able to turn that patience for steady long-term growth into your greatest power. Saturn in Gemini is about mental clarity and expression. The fear of speaking can evolve into a mastery of words, a mastery of public speaking, for example. You learn to teach the truth of the matter with structure and with your heart. Saturn in Cancer is all about emotional responsibility. You may carry others' emotions as your own, but with time, you learn how to hold space for them without losing yourself in the process. Saturn in Leo, this is about owning the spotlight with authenticity. You may fear being too much, but yet you also long to be in the spotlight, to be seen by others. You guys are here to be the heart-centered leader who follows their passion and takes action from that place, not just performing to fit the expectations of other people. Saturn in Virgo, this is about healing through humble service. Perfectionism is the wound here, and sacred service is the gift or the medicine for the wound. You guys are able to see all of the details and devote yourself to working on those details and refining them, and that's where your power is. Saturn in Libra, this is all about partnership with boundaries, and that's the one-on-one partnerships in your life. It can be business, romantic, close friendships, etc. You may feel like love needs to be earned, but in reality, true, mature, long-lasting love is your path. And over time, you understand how to develop relationships that stand the test of time, and you're probably going to become the very wise lover in your partnership. Saturn in Scorpio, this is all about depth, power, and trust. You're learning not to fear intensity, but to transmute it, and you heal through your own moments of rebirth. You're going to go through cycles that are challenging, intense, but once you live through all of that, it can also be your greatest medicine that you master and share with other people. Saturn in Sagittarius, this is trust with integrity. You walk the path of this wise wanderer archetype, not someone who's lost, but who is on this constant journey of seeking. And once you've lived through those experiences, you are meant to master that and teach that to others. Teaching from what you lived, being the great storyteller. Saturn in Capricorn, this is all about building from integrity. You guys are very ambitious, but your soul is asking you for meaningful success. You lead best when you take your time, you slow down, and you align with your purpose. Saturn in Aquarius, this is innovation with purpose. You may feel like the outsider, but this is part of your power because you can see the future and you're here to shape that future. You are the visionary. You are the disruptor, the person who rethinks systems and improves them. Saturn in Pisces, this is compassionate structure. You may feel like boundaries and mysticism are at odds and both cannot connect because the mystic is more boundless, right? And its energy, it doesn't know bounds. You guys may feel like boundaries and mysticism are at odds because mysticism exists without boundaries. It's very fluid and energetic. But you guys are learning to be the bridge, to ground the divine into a practical, everyday way where other people can use it and understand how to bridge it as well. And guys, that's just me touching on the signs and the house placements, but if you want me to go deeper, let me know and I can make a video about Saturn through every single sign and Saturn through every single house. Let me know if you want that in the comment section, but now let me tell you about why knowing the sign and the house matters with an example. Let's say your Saturn is in the 5th house in Virgo. Your lesson is self-expression, but it's made harder by perfectionism. So maybe you were taught to suppress your creativity so you could be useful instead of joyful. But over time, you learn that that meticulous attention to detail is part of your art. So you can bring that healing through the structure you provide. You could become someone who creates spaces for play, ritual, and refinement for others. Another example would be Saturn in Scorpio in the 11th house. So you could fear vulnerability in group spaces. Maybe you felt unsafe in communities, but now you're here to build those deep bonds in transformative networks. Not surface level popularity, but soulful groups, soulful tribes. and you become that quiet anchor in the room that really shifts the paradigm for others. So to work with this information, ask yourself, what is the house my Saturn is in? Because this is the area of life where the pressure shows up. And ask, what sign is it in? Because that's how you experience and express that pressure. And then ask yourself, how do these combine? What kind of challenge and what kind of mastery is being forged with the two? And remember, Saturn is not a one-time lesson. You'll go through it again and again. You're revisiting the same theme, but from a different level of depth. Next, we're going to talk about the North Node, which is like your compass, your soul's direction for your highest fulfillment. And if you want to go more in depth into the North Node, I have a whole entire video that breaks down every single sign, and you can check that out on my channel. If Saturn is your karmic curriculum, the North Node is your soul's compass. Saturn shows you what you came here to master, and the North Node shows you what you came here to move towards. It's not comfortable, but it's kind of magnetic. It feels like your higher calling, and it's where your deepest fulfillment lies. So let's explore how the North Node works and how its axis with the South Node reveals that evolutionary journey that you're going on. So what is the North Node? It's not a planet, it's actually a mathematical point in astrology, which you don't have to calculate yourself. They calculate it for you online for free. It's essentially where the moon's orbit intersects the path of the sun's orbit. And the North Node is the opposite point of the South Node. Think of it like north and south, right? Together they form an axis, where you're heading and where you came from. It's like what you've mastered in past lifetimes. It might feel very familiar, very natural, very second nature, but your North Node is like your growth edge. It's not the things you're good at yet, but your soul wants to evolve in that direction. And when you move towards it, you reach the most fulfillment. Your South Node, think of it as your default setting, your old self, your past self, the comfort zone, the talents and the tendencies you were born with, because you've done them in so many lifetimes over and over again. But here's the thing, if you stay there, it feels safe but stagnant. You won't grow. And life will keep nudging you into the opposite direction and help you grow towards your North Node. This doesn't mean you need to abandon all the qualities of your South Node, but you're meant to integrate those things, those innate talents, and stretch yourself into something new. So let's briefly explore the energy of each North Node sign and having your North Node in each of the 12 houses as well. If you have yours in Aries, this is about independence, courage, leadership. Think of it as going from codependence to an independent self. If you have a Taurus North Node, this is about simplicity, stability, self-worth, from chaos to calm. If you have it in Gemini, this is about curiosity, communication, learning, from dogma to dialogue. North Node in Cancer is about nurturing, vulnerability, emotional honesty, from control to care. In Leo, it's about creative expression, visibility, play, from working for the collective vision to having autonomy over your life. If you have it in Virgo, this is a lifetime about devotion, service, discernment, from fantasy to function. If you have it in Libra, it is about harmony, cooperation, partnership, from a self-focused lens to shared growth with other people. If you have it in Scorpio, this North Node path is all about intimacy, depth, transformation, from surface level connections to having such deep substance in your life. If you have it in Sagittarius, this is all about faith, exploration, spiritual truth, from logic to liberation. If you have it in Capricorn, this is about structure, responsibility, and long-term mastery, from passivity to power. If you have it in Aquarius, this is about vision, innovation, community, from ego to collective purpose. If you have it in Pisces, this is about surrender, intuition, and compassion, from controlling your life to surrendering and having that divine flow. Now, the house your North Node is in shows you where those lessons will unfold for you. If you have your North Node in the first house, you're learning how to be unapologetically you. If you have it in the second house, you are building self-worth through tangible value. If you have it in the third house, you are learning to share your thoughts, speak with people, and connect. If you have it in the fourth house, you are building emotional roots and healing your inner child. If you have it in the fifth house, you are here to shine, create, and love without apology. If you have it in the sixth house, you are developing mastery through daily devotion and service. If you have it in the seventh house, you are learning the art of real, authentic partnership. If you have it in the eighth house, you are learning to surrender, trust, and transform through other people. If it's in the ninth house, you are being called to expand, teach, travel, and follow your truth. If you have it in the 10th house, you are here to lead, build, and leave a legacy behind. If it's in the 11th house, you are here to serve the collective and reshape our future, to innovate systems. If it's in the 12th house, You are being drawn towards spiritual surrender and intuitive flow. So, for example, if you have an Aquarius North Node, then the opposite is going to be Leo, right? So Leo South Node. You could have lived lifetimes focused on personal fame, charisma, or being the leader. But now you're here to share the spotlight, to collaborate with others, and to build systems that serve, because your soul is craving contribution. It wants innovation. It wants you to leave an impact that will ripple outward to the rest of the world. Another example is someone with a North Node in Scorpio, so their South Node will be in Taurus. In your past lives, you valued stability, material comfort, security, but in this life, your soul wants depth. You are here to move through transformation, to let go, to trust, to go deeper with people. This can feel terrifying, but it's also where your greatest healing begins. So to integrate this North Node, South Node axis, I want you to grab your journal again, and I'm going to give you a few prompts to sit down, pause, and reflect on. Number 1, what are my default patterns that feel easy but don't fulfill me? Number 2, what scares me about my North Node qualities? Number 3, where in my life am I being called to grow but I keep saying not yet? And number 4, what would happen if I took one aligned action with my North Node this week? So a lot of people mistake the North Node as your career, but it's not that. It's your calling, it's your life purpose. For example, if you're a North Node in Virgo, that doesn't mean you have to be a nurse. It means you are here to create structure, service, and healing in whatever field you do. A North Node in Sagittarius might not mean a job with travel, but it does mean expanding and exploring your truth. That could be through books, conversations, or spiritual mentorship on the side. And I do want to mention that the North Node is activated at a few very key points in your life. So there's one thing that's called the Nodal Return, and this will happen around ages 18 to 19, 37 to 38, and 56 to 57. It's essentially when the transiting North Node hits your natal North Node in your chart. Another key thing is when the transiting South Node hits your natal North Node. This is called a nodal reverse. And the last one is when the transiting moon or some transiting planets hit your North or South Node. During these windows, you may feel more pushed towards your North Node path. Even if you're not ready, you're going to feel that invitation to stretch, so really pay attention. Now that you understand Saturn and North Node on a deeper level, let's talk about combining them together. If Saturn is your soul contract, then North Nodes are your Saturn's soul compass. So this next section is about how to work with the two together to shape your destiny. So your Saturn placement shows where you're being challenged, shaped, matured. It's your karmic weight room, like the lessons that you cannot bypass even if you try. The North Node, meanwhile, is ultimately what you're growing into. It is not what you're good at yet, but it's what you're here to become. When these two align, either by aspect, placement, or life experience, it's like your soul saying, whatever work you've been avoiding, that is the exact key to who you came here to be. I want you to go and check the aspects section of astro charts for your birth chart. Because if your Saturn and North Node form some sort of major aspect like a conjunction, square, trine, opposition, this lifetime for you is especially focused on karmic accountability. So if you have a conjunction, for example, that karmic work you're doing and the soul growth you're doing are basically the same. There is no escaping it. You were meant to own your own path. But if it's a square, there's a tension that feels like the forward path is blocked until you learn the lesson, until the karmic work is done. If there is a trine or a sextile, it means the hard work that you have been putting in past lifetimes supports your growth now, and you kind of earn some momentum. If there is an opposition, you may feel this split between your soul's desire and your responsibility, but integrating these two will unlock your path to mastery. Even if there aren't major aspects, these themes will still intertwine across your whole life. Let me give you some examples of how these two can work together. So if you have Saturn in the 2nd house and your North Node is in the 8th house, you are here to build internal security so you can handle soul deep transformation. Until you learn how to ground yourself, you may resist the idea of surrendering. But once you do, you unlock massive depth and power. Another example is Saturn in Leo and then your North Node in Aquarius. So you could fear being seen or crave attention in ways that feel empty and shallow. But your true purpose is about using your creative gifts in service to the collective. So that visibility is not about your ego, it's about the impact you have. Lastly, I want to talk about having Saturn in the 6th house and your North Node in the 12th house. You are being asked to move from perfectionism to surrendering, from control to faith. And you may build a lot of structures over your lifetime, but eventually these need to kind of fade away and transmute into you just surrendering and trusting. There is dharma hidden in your karma. Saturn's tests are never random. They are training you for something bigger. Sometimes the exact thing that hurt you is the thing you are going to help others learn to navigate. Like if you grew up poor, you learn how to develop real wealth and teach others how to do the same. Or if you felt rejected for your emotions, you become the healer that you needed at a young age. Overall, when you start integrating your Saturn and your North Node, something begins to click for you. You stop fighting your life and you begin to shape it. When you stop running from those hard parts, you begin to feel this quiet satisfaction from living in integrity with your soul. It is not always going to be glamorous, but it's very authentic, it's real, and it's yours. Now I want you to grab out your journal. Once again, I have 3 reflection questions for you to help understand how to integrate these 2 energies together. Number 1, what is the hardest thing that I keep avoiding based off your Saturn? Number 2, what is the dream I keep putting off based off your North Node? Number 3, how might doing the work in one unlock the other? Coming up next, we are going to talk about the different cycles with Saturn, including your Saturn return, one of the most famous transits in astrology, and how these mark the milestones in your spiritual and psychological growth. Saturn does not just sit in your birth chart, it moves. It moves in cycles, predictable, powerful, and deeply personal ways. These cycles are basically the cosmic or astrological clock of your maturity. They show up as invitations and sometimes even crisis in order for you to align with your deeper purpose. In this section, we are going to explore the key Saturn cycles, the 7-year squares and oppositions, the 29-year Saturn return, and how they awaken you at every single stage. The reason that these cycles matter so much is because Saturn rules time, as we discussed. And the cycles teach you that growth does not happen overnight. It happens in seasons, layers, and spirals. The gift of Saturn is wisdom, authority, maturity, and these gifts don't arrive all at once. They're actually earned through the phases you go through. Think of your soul's journey like building a temple. Every 7 years, a new part of that structure is shaped, tested, and reinforced. So the first thing is the 7-year Saturn cycles, and you might be going through one of these right now. Roughly every 7 years, Saturn makes a significant aspect to its original placement in your chart. These include the Saturn square around 7, 21, 35, and 49, also the Saturn opposition around age 14 and 44, and the Saturn return around ages 29 to 30, and 58 to 60. Each phase will bring a very distinct flavor of growth for you. Let me know if you're at any of these ages and if you're going through this. First, let's talk about the Saturn square. So this is 7, 21, 35, and 49. This is definitely a friction point where your soul is asking you if you're living in alignment. And if not, Saturn will apply pressure. So I'm sure none of you are 7 right now watching this. If you are, hello, it's nice to have you on this channel. But if you have children who are around ages 7, they begin to really encounter the rules of the world. So discipline, the idea of identity, and what structure really means. At 21, your independence is tested. You're asking yourself, who am I beyond my upbringing? At 35, career, identity, family, all of that comes under review and you're at a turning point. At 49, there's kind of a spiritual shakeup happening for you where you're being asked, am I walking my talk? Am I walking my belief system? Overall, Saturn squares kind of push you to make course corrections in your life. They can feel kind of tense, but they clear the path for growth. Now let's talk about the Saturn opposition. So around age 14 or 44, you see your Saturn across the sky literally and symbolically. At 14, this is the classic rebellion age. But deeper than that, it's your psyche screaming at you to stretch beyond the mold. And then at age 44, it is like the midlife crisis, you reevaluating your choices. Are you proud of the structures you've built so far? Oppositions overall challenge you to integrate and see both sides of the equation, to refine what your truth is and lead from that. Now let's talk about the famous Saturn return. This happens around ages 29 to 30 and 58 to 60. This is kind of like the rite of passage moment. It marks the end of a cycle. and the beginning of true adulthood. It's not so much about age, it's more about authority, about choosing that path with full awareness of its cost. At your first Saturn return, you may leave a job that no longer fits you or a relationship that you've outgrown. You could step into a role of real responsibility, being in the spotlight, being visible. You could feel really lost, but compelled to claim your truth. It's definitely a shedding, a maturation, a reckoning, and for many, it's a rebirth. And the second Saturn return happens around ages 58 to 60. This really brings legacy, mastery, a new kind of freedom because you've paid your dues and now you can live from a state of wisdom. And if you guys want to understand more about this, you can always book a reading with me, linked in the description. Let me give you some real life examples of people who have talked about their Saturn return. So this one girl named Jasmine, on paper, she was this high performer, this marketing executive, but at age 29, she was burnt out, she was unfulfilled, and her Saturn return really cracked her open. She left corporate world and she actually trained to become a somatic coach. And now she actually helps other people navigate through their career challenges, their career transitions with integrity. Another example is Lewis, and he went through his Saturn return around age 60, and he spent decades working in finance. It was very stable, secure, and he was a respected figure in the space. But at his second Saturn return, he realized it was time to write. So he ended up publishing his first ever book at age 61 and actually became a guide for men seeking purpose beyond profit. These are two examples where it's not a breakdown, it's actually a breakthrough. And the truth is there is a third Saturn return, but it's not often talked about a lot because it happens between age 87 to 88. If you are blessed to reach this age, then this is the Saturn return of elder. It's not just about aging anymore, it's about spiritual mastery. You're no longer climbing the mountain, you've become the mountain. And you're probably asking yourself, what legacy do I have left? Who am I beyond doing? What truths do I want to pass on to others? Many elders with a strong Saturn return at this age will become teachers, wisdom keepers, because this silence they have carries weight. Their presence carries weight. And the stories they tell to others become maps for younger generations to move through life. So let's talk about charting your Saturn story. One really powerful thing to do is mapping out your life in 7-year intervals. Start from the birth age and go up to the age you are now. At each age, 7, 14, 21, 35, for example, etc., ask yourself, what major challenge or transition happened at this age? What was I forced to confront or let go of? What lesson did I only understand after the fact? You will see the patterns, you will see the spiral, and most importantly, you will see how far you've come. And let me know if you do this exercise and what first thing comes to mind. You can pause the video and do it right now. Now, let's loop this back into the big picture. Every 7-year cycle, if you're going through one now, I want you to also ask yourself, what am I committing to now? What have I outgrown? And what am I building that will last? And remember, just because it feels hard does not mean that it's wrong. What lesson is Saturn trying to teach me right now? Every Saturn cycle actually deepens your capacity to walk with your North Node path. If the North Node is where you're going, Saturn is helping you make that journey real. For example, a North Node in Leo might not fully blossom until they go through their Saturn return and learn to trust in their voice, to believe in themselves. Another example, a North Node in Pisces, they may feel terrified until they go through their Saturn return and they have to truly learn what it means to surrender and let go of control. Now we're going to talk about how to lean into discipline without losing your softness. Toughness is not the same as strength. I think that many people confuse these two. Toughness says don't feel it, just get over it. While strength says feel it fully, still choose to rise above it. So Saturn doesn't want you to emotionally suppress, it wants you to have emotional maturity. The ability to sit with grief, to hold pain and not project it, not collapse, to keep loving another person and loving yourself even when it's hard. This is where many people get stuck because they think that working with Saturn means abandoning their heart, but the wisdom of Saturn lives through the heart. It doesn't want you to lose that love, not outside of it. So a mature Saturn is going to teach you to create boundaries, not walls. Saying no to people because you value yourself and your time, and saying yes because it aligns with your truth, not because you're afraid of rejection. Without boundaries, you're going to be constantly drained, but too many boundaries, you become brittle and disconnected. So to work with Saturn, it means you're anchored in your truth and you're open. You don't overgive, you don't over-explain. Hopefully that makes sense. So some signs that you're overdoing your Saturn placement is number 1, you confuse exhaustion with achievement. Number 2, you ignore your emotions in favor of productivity. Number 3, you set rigid goals and ignore your body's cues. Number 4, You think that you must earn rest or earn love. This is not maturity, it's actually martyrdom. Truly working with your Saturn placement means honoring sustainability, honoring your cycles, your rhythm, pacing that power you have inside of yourself. I'm going to talk about what softness looks like for each Saturn sign element. So if you have Saturn in an earth sign, that's Virgo, Taurus, or Capricorn, softness for you comes through slowing down because these signs can over-identify with work, routine, or results. So learning to rest and still feel worthy is the healing. If you have Saturn in an air sign, that's Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, softness comes through connection for you. These signs can over-intellectualize their emotions or avoid emotion. So it is about learning to feel without having to explain everything. And then if you have Saturn in a fire sign, that's Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, soft comes through humility because these placements, they want to push forward fast and hard and go through all the limits. But that can lead to burnout. So Saturn is teaching you that vulnerability can be very powerful as well. And then if you have Saturn in one of the water signs, that's Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, softness is very native in your body, but it's often hidden behind the fear and the overwhelm you're facing in your life. So these signs need to learn how to feel deeply without drowning in emotion. And Saturn is going to give them safe containers for their sensitivity. Discipline gets a lot of hype, but devotion, it is softer and it's stronger. Devotion does not mean putting yourself in rigid routines. It means returning to what matters time and time again, even if you fall off. So I want to take you through a quick visualization practice in order to heal and work with the Saturn wound. So get in a safe space. It's only going to take a minute or so. I want you to center and close your eyes. Imagine Saturn not as a judge, but as a wise elder coming to you in your visualization. Picture them handing you a cloak. This cloak is heavy, but it's also warm, and it's made to fit you perfectly. It's very comfortable, has you feeling safe and protected. Imagine them saying, this is your path and you don't have to walk it all fast. Just continue to keep walking. Then allow your body and yourself, your mind, your psyche to receive that permission. Receive the permission to go slow, to go soft, and to go steady. And then I want you to feel into the room around you and ground yourself and come back. I want to ask you guys to do another 2 journal prompts before we move into the next section. You can either do these right now and pause the video or wait a little bit longer until later tonight. Number 1, where have I mistaken hardness for strength? Number 2, what would devotion look like if it was rooted in love, not fear? You guys don't have to become harder or tougher in order to survive through life. Saturn does not ask you to be perfect, it asks you to be present with the circumstance, to keep showing up, to keep learning, and to build a life that is strong and tender at the same time. In the last 2 sections, I want to first give you some powerful, real-life, practical tools in order to work with your Saturn in everyday life, and then I want to give you some celebrity examples to show how this manifests, because I think that is one of the most fun things to do in astrology, is studying the people who came before us or who are going through these right now. So we have explored the archetype of Saturn. Now it's time to get practical in my Virgo nature. How do we actually work with Saturn? In this section, I'll walk you through the tools, rituals, habits, and mindset shifts that turn that pain from Saturn into a partner, not a punisher. These are not one size fits all. If you want something more personalized, you can always book a chart reading with me, but I want you to take what resonates and make it your own. First off are these journal prompts to either use weekly or monthly, especially through any tough transits or Saturn returns that you have. Number 1, what am I avoiding that requires discipline or attention? Number 2, where in my life do I feel over-responsible or under-responsible? Number 3, what boundaries am I being invited to strengthen? The goal is not to fix everything, it's just to observe that Saturn pattern with honesty. So now let's talk about some rituals. The first thing I want to talk about is a Saturn candle ceremony. Once a week, ideally on a Saturday, you can light a black, gray, or dark blue candle, and as you light it, you can ask yourself, what am I willing to commit to this week? Then write down one action that aligns with your long-term value, your long-term vision. It doesn't have to be anything flashy, just something very steady. Number 2 is the Saturn stone meditation. You can hold a grounding stone in your hand like hematite, onyx, or obsidian and just sit in stillness for 10 minutes. Feeling your spine, imagining your root chakra or roots growing into the ground and connecting you, grounding you. This is a really good practice because it's not about doing anything, it's just about being very present with your body. Another way you can work with your Saturn sign is aligning it with the moon cycles. So during the new moon, you can set an intention that has to do with your Saturn, something long-term, grounded, and clear. And then during the first quarter phase, you can take one small action towards it and then do something consistently for the rest of the time until the full moon. And on the full moon, reflect and see, where am I resisting structure? What's surfacing for me? And then during the last quarter moon phase, release whatever is not working and adjust your systems to accommodate. This rhythm can really keep you balanced without being too rigid. And then there are also some daily affirmations you can do to anchor your Saturn energy. Say these when you need courage to show up consistently. Number 1, I trust the pace of my growth. Number 2, I honor my time with presence. Number 3, my effort is enough even when the results are slow. Number 4, every small act of integrity builds my future. Say them out loud, write them on sticky notes, post them on your mirror. Just let them rewrite the inner script, the inner narrative that is holding you back. And if you guys are overwhelmed with all of these tools, that is completely okay. I just want you to pick one thing, one small action that is easy to repeat on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. Something meaningful, even if no one sees it. Now, let's move into some real-life case studies and stories from 3 different celebrities seeing their Saturn and their North Node. First person I want to talk about is Beyonce. I've already done a whole glow up video based off her chart and how she has become so famous and successful and how it's written in her astrology. If you guys want to go watch that, I have it linked in my glow up astrology playlist, or you can find it on my channel. But recently she released her birth certificate, so now we have her exact birth time. So Beyonce has her Saturn in Libra and her North Node in Cancer. When it comes to her Libra Saturn, she operates on a public level with discipline, perfectionism. It's very well documented from her meticulous training routine, her constructed performances. Basically, her Saturn manifests as this instance on excellence, control, beauty, composure, and harmony. With her North Node, over time, her artistry has evolved from this focus on her to this focus on the deeper emotional themes. Feminism, empowerment, legacy, collective identity, voice. Overall, this represents her North Node journey from status to a deeper, more emotionally mature purpose. And the public has also seen those tension points in her Saturn journey, moments with pressure, periods of silence, reorienting her brand. These are often the major Saturn or nodal transits happening and playing out in real time. In recent work, she's also become more comfortable in blending vulnerability, depth, message. It's less about being perfect, it's more about speaking her truth even if it's messy. Less of that Libra Saturn trying to be like composed and perfect, and instead sharing through that authentic Cancer North Node axis. And then I want to talk about Taylor Swift. So we don't have her exact birth time, but we can know her North Node and Saturn based on just her date of birth and also the location. So she actually has her Saturn in Capricorn, so it's in the home sign. This adds an extra potency of discipline, structure, and ambition to her chart. And then her North Node is in Aquarius, which really illustrates how her soul's direction is going towards innovation, community, collective consciousness, and progressive thinking, even though she's in the spotlight. With her Saturn, these are often people who are old souls from a young age, and they feel the responsibility very early by overachieving. And that is true. She was this teenage country star, and now she's a global pop icon. Very much Saturn in Capricorn. Every move is calculated. Every release is this masterclass in careful planning and control. She didn't just sing, she built contracts, teams, brands. Her Saturn really shows up in how she navigates time and legacy, and it also gets a layer deeper with her North Node in Aquarius, and we can best guess that it's conjunct her Venus sign. So her soul path is to move from solo identity with the Leo to collective expression, to move from image of like, look at me, see what I can do, to instead look at the impact I've made on people. And you see this shift after she goes through her Saturn return. She begins to challenge the industry's power structure. She starts releasing work directly tied to her fans, bypassing the middleman. Her music becomes more reflective, more communal, like the Folkmore and Evermore albums, very introspective, collaborative, anti-mainstream. Even her public persona evolves from the individual narrative to a voice for artist rights, political consciousness, gender. We can see that her Saturn really grounded her in this ambition, but her North Node in Aquarius stretched her to have a bigger mission in this life. The last celebrity I want to talk about is Kanye West. We can most likely know based off his birth date and his location that his Saturn is in Leo and that his North Node is in Libra. Kanye West's Saturn in Leo really illustrates the ego struggles, that balance between performing for likes and attention versus performing for his authentic expression. It's basically the image of someone who has these lessons that revolve around personal expression. One might struggle with the idea of being bold versus being disciplined. His North Node also really serves as a metaphor for someone who struggled with lifetimes where they were self-focused. They did things independently. They didn't need someone. And now he's growing towards someone who leans on collaboration, whose soul is being asked to navigate fairness, diplomacy, relationships, and balance instead of dominating or trying to control others. The thing is, his birth time is uncertain, so we don't know any aspects or the exact houses that these placements are in, but we can for sure know that his Saturn is in Leo and his North Node is in Libra. Saturn in Leo is pretty dramatic because there's this tension between wanting to be seen and fearing being judged. Leo wants to shine, and then Saturn restricts it. So Kanye kind of lives in this paradox. He's a creative visionary, but he's also deeply self-critical. He pushes the limits and then he can alienate himself. He builds brands and then burns bridges. That is the Saturn in Leo wrestling with the wound of recognition, the constant drive to prove value through performance, status, and impact. And then here comes the North Node in Libra. Libra invites humility, balance, partnership. Kanye's life has repeatedly, in the public eye at least, thrown him into these lessons in relationships, into the fire of these relational lessons. His marriage, family life, divorce, they were public and they were pressure cookers. His outbursts, his reactions, these highlight the Libra struggle, trying to harmonize that internal chaos with the world. Also, the business and political ventures, the power struggles, that battle between cooperation and selfhood. Kanye's story is, of course, unfolding like everyone's, but the axis is clear. The astrology is showing him he's moving from I alone am the answer with Aries South Node to we must co-create with the Libra North Node. So you guys have just made it through one of the most important journeys in astrology. We have walked with Saturn, the planet of karma, structure, discipline, and we have followed the path of the North Node, what your soul is whispering and calling you towards. Now you are standing at this edge of awareness. You have a mirror, you have a map, because you guys did not come here to repeat the same painful lessons and patterns over and over again. You came here to evolve, to learn, and to build a life that is worthy of your soul. And maybe your Saturn return or your Saturn transits in general have felt heavy for you. Maybe the North Node feels too scary or far away right now. That is okay, because these archetypes are not asking you to perfect anything. It is all about that slow, deliberate, consistent growth. Keep showing up for yourself even when it's hard. And if any of you guys are feeling the call to go deeper, to understand your own Saturn story, where the pressure lives, where the breakthrough is coming, or to decode your North Node, what you're here to stretch into, then this is your invitation to book a glow-up reading with me where we can dive deeper into all of this. In our session, we are going to explore your chart as a living story instead of just placements on the wheel. You are going to walk away with clarity, context, and a month-by-month plan based off the transits in your chart in order to embody all of this without feeling overwhelmed. If you want to book a reading, I'll leave the link in the description. If this video has spoken to any of you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Let me know if you want me to go deeper into every single Saturn sign and every single house. Please also share this with someone you love, because I really do think knowing this information can change your life. You never know what people in your life are going through this situation behind the scenes. I love you so, so much, and I will see you in the next video.